recently, and this is something that was actually brought up by Jim O'Brien at the most recent Democratic committee meeting, is the email attacks, the spam of thousands of emails from people outside of Spalding County claiming election fraud in Spalding County. So what is it you know about this, and how does Jovan Pulitzer play into this? And are there other actors involved as well?
Yeah, so December, the board members themselves, they all have government email addresses, and as does Kim Slaughter, the supervisor. And there's other election office staff, like
Mm-hmm.
administrative staff. I don't really know how many, but they all get hit with some 2,000 emails from all over the country, basically demanding investigations and audits into debunked claims of voter fraud, specifically in Spalding County, specifically during the 2020 election. Okay. Maybe about 60 of those are from Spalding County residents. The rest are from everywhere else, right? And the emails, most of them, some of them have a very sort of amateurish document attached to them that has like insane claims. I have it right here. Insane claims of investigating whether children voters voting that were born before 1900, things like that. And it looks like this, which is just like a little list type thing. But then a lot of the other emails have a very put together and professional looking document that's about 4 or 5 pages long, that reads a lot like a legal document, like an affidavit for a search warrant or an indictment or something like that. And the way that the document is structured is that you, as the petitioner, you're not filing actually a legal petition, but anybody can ask a government employee to do something for them. So you, as the petitioner, you just put your name on the top sentence. I, Zach Fuller, request, and then all the way down for 4 pages, laying out allegation after allegation after allegation after allegation, all of which are currently being investigated or have been investigated by authorities in Georgia and deemed not to be, accurate, right? So that's the bulk of the emails that the Board of Elections gets, right? And so it's like, well, where did these come from? Like all of a sudden, Spalding County gets bombarded with 2,000 emails calling for an investigation into election that happened a year and a half ago. Like, what the hell is going on here? We don't really get much in the ways of answers for that. Jim O'Brien asked at a board meeting earlier this month, what do you know about this? And Ben Johnson kind of says something about, oh, I think some YouTube influencers got a hold of some allegations and they had a lot of followers. I've since learned that Johnson has named two type of like far right YouTube influencers as people who have talked about Spalding County, as being the possible like source of, they could have said, hey, all you patriots out there, we need you to sign these letters and you can go download them here. And here's the, he may have said something like that. I don't know. I haven't been able to figure all that out yet. All I know is that Ben Johnson cites these two in YouTube influencer people as possibly being the impetus for this email thing, right? But that's all well and good. But Jim O'Brien has serious questions about who in Spalding County was maybe involved with helping to spread the word that led to that email campaign. And I think that's more to the point, which is, because now what's happening is Ben Johnson is taking these allegations seriously and saying, well, maybe we should do another investigation and another audit into the 2020 election. And Jim Newland, the new impartial Republican on the board, at the last board meeting, seemed open to that idea. He said, well, if we're going to do that, we can't audit ourselves. That doesn't seem right, which is a valid point, sort of alluding to that they would have to hire an outside party to conduct these audits, these totally unnecessary audits. So back to the letters themselves, they first off, they mentioned Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, who I'll get to in a second, but they also demand that the Board of Elections and the county commissioner hear a presentation from a woman named Ashley Gillets of a group called the Georgia Patriots. Who knows what the Georgia Patriots are? You know, that's a generic name. There's a million groups that could be. Ashley Gillis, there's a woman named Ashley Gillis who lives in Lamar County. She's on the Lamar County GOP board. She served as various type of elections type things before, a poll watcher. She helped adjudicate votes in Spalding County during the 2020 election. She was asked by the Secretary of State to testify at a Senate hearing about allegations of fraud. There's a video on YouTube of her testimony that has like 40 views. Anyway, when I get a hold of her and I go,
Please send me that.
What's that? I will. Well, I mean, honestly, like she seems like a very reasonable, actual modern Republican. She has concerns and questions about irregularities that occurred in Spalding County during 2020, but she does not appear to me to be a full-out like election denier person. We had a nice conversation, and she seems very reasonable. And honestly, the video, she's not really making allegations that there was voter fraud. She's just sort of saying, this was weird. I don't understand why the workers did that, whatever, right? So she was probably found by some far-right person who was like, look at this person who was there on the ground. Who knows, right? But anyway, when I get a hold of her, she's like, I don't know who the Georgia Patriots are. I have not made allegations of widespread voter fraud. My testimony is involved in an investigation that is ongoing, and I'm not going to talk about that because I'm going to let the investigators come to their own conclusion. So she has no idea why she's even being named in this letter, right? Which is bizarre, and I haven't been able to get to the bottom of. But who I know more about is Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. So the letter also demands that any technology used in an audit or investigation be approved by Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, who is a lot of different things, but most recently has become famous for being a hardcore election conspiracy theorist that was involved with the weird and unnecessary audit that happened in Maricopa County, Arizona. So Jovan Hutton Pulitzer.
Wait, the Cyber Ninjas company?
Correct.
Okay.
So they were like, we also got to use this guy's technology because his technology is the best stuff at figuring out. This guy claims to have proprietary technology that can detect the presence of bamboo in paper ballots, which would indicate that those ballots were filled out in China.
Which is just racist and doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense because how the fuck would a ballot filled out in China get mailed into it? It doesn't make any sense at all. It is absolutely insane. But this is the level of conspiracy theorists that we're talking about. Now, where did that letter come from and who was behind it and who all in Spalding County was involved in it? We don't know the answers to that. What we do know is that Jovan Hutton Pulitzer is a fairly obscure conspiracy theorist on the far right. Somebody that honestly I had never heard of until I saw that letter. And my job is to read the news all day long, right? He's also a guy that Ben Johnson has cited specifically on Twitter and tweeted at and involving, and seems to like and appreciate his work on ensuring that elections have integrity. So I'm just going to leave that there.
That would make sense, especially since he immediately cited to Jim that he thought it was two YouTubers. Right.
Well, he did say the two YouTubers. He said something about, maybe somebody on YouTube got a hold of it. And then later on, he tells Jim, and he names two people, two actual influencers that I've found. Later on, he tells that to Jim.
Oh, yeah. And it wasn't Jovan Pulitzer?
No, it was. I haven't even had time to look them up yet. But I mean, they have significant followers, but for like a normal person that isn't in those far right online circles, you would never know you would have never heard of these people. So I think there are some very serious questions about who all knew about that letter, specifically Ben Johnson, that need to be answered.
Well, this leads me to the next thing, which I kind of want your opinion on, but also I just kind of want to point out in general, is even if the current board of elections doesn't do anything to like fuck with the voting, right? In SB 202, there is a provision in it that says that if the Secretary of State or the state board of elections determines that there is corruption or some kind of issue with a county board of elections, they can invoke this provision to overturn the election board. So the election board no longer runs the elections, and instead a single appointee from the governor runs that county's elections. Now, because of all the issues and conflicts of interest with Ben Johnson and the issues that HB 769 have caused, do you think that this provision from SB 202, do you think they're sort of counting, and by them I mean like the GOP, whether county or statewide, might be counting on this being deemed a bad board so that the governor can run the election in this county?
That's a good question. I don't really know. My gut reaction is that I think that provision is a way for Georgia Republicans to make sure that their bases are covered regardless of what happens. If they're not able to, through a law like HB 769, take over a county election board, well, they'll just have, I think it's a newly created legislative body in the Georgia legislature, I believe, who handles this decision on whether or not to appoint a single person, like you said. They'll just have them do that. If they can't take over the election board, well, then by God, they'll just say that election board is incompetent and they can't run the elections, so we need to send our guy down there. I don't necessarily think, I think that's more of a situation that they would look to employ in more Democrat-heavy places. But it's also certainly, my other understanding is that call to have someone that the election board isn't able to perform their task, that call, doesn't it also have to come from like local elected officials, like the county commission or something like that?
I think they can submit a request of that, but I'm pretty sure it lays out that if there's just suspicion, and it's something that has to be voted on by the body, which I'm not sure if it's called the State Board of Elections, but that's essentially what it is. It's a small group of people that used to be chaired by the Secretary of State, but SB 202 actually changed that and stripped the Secretary of State of power over that.
Right. And he's no longer on it, and there's one Democrat and like 3 or 4 Republicans on it. So, I mean, I think what that does is it's like a safety net. If they can't get done what they need to done through the restructuring of the election boards, then they could just go in and just sort of manhandle it. And you know what? Look, that could be used in a situation. I could see a situation in which an election board like a Republican majority one in Spalding County, they're not able to do certain things because one or both of the Democrats won't vote for them. And so they throw up their hands and they go, well, you know what? This board is dysfunctional and incompetent, and it's up to you guys now. And then the Republicans on the state election board just go, yeah, well, we agree with that. And then they send somebody down to manhandle the process,
Right. And that's one of the many reasons SB 202 is so damning for voting rights and why it's called Jim Crow 2.0 is it really does kind of destroy a lot of the trust and ability of people to actually have to cast their votes.
Right.